All right, here we are, Rich Life Projects, and today, what a story I have from probably a young fella who's had a dream of being a great fighter, and next minute, Australia's next $1 million man. Well, probably doesn't work out to be $1 million as we spoke about. Rob Razor Wilkinson, how are you, mate?
I'm good, bud. How are you doing?
Always good, mate. Mate, what has been happening other than obviously you've won the $1 million? So, what's that been like since that's happened?
Honestly, just much the same. You know, life kind of keeps going on, and it's kind of funny. You have those, those goals of becoming a world champion, and like a big long-term goal that's taken over 10 years to achieve. And once it happens, it's kind of, you're still the same person. I'm still me, and I'm just kind of still love training and just kind of want to get straight back into it and keep doing what I love doing.
Yeah. And it's a I suppose, and some kids starting to grow up and do the fight game and promotion game, they have this dream, your dream, for all their life and never achieve it.
Yeah.
So that's probably of late your trip being from where you started to where you are now. As you say, still the same person, obviously a little bit of extra cash, but now you're obviously in Melbourne helping Jimmy Crew with his next up-and-coming fight in Perth. So, it's just making your way around and helping and still enjoying the process.
Yeah, I love it. Obviously it's, I try to take it in, and, winning the title meant a lot to me, but as everyone kind of says, it's not about the destination, it's the journey. And definitely I kind of realized that when I kind of won that title, and I love the journey. So that's kind of the most important. But yeah, over here with Jimmy, I love helping other people fight or helping them in their fight camps, because all the pressures or like all the hard work's really on them. You kind of get to help out, do a couple of rounds, other people do rounds, you get a bit of rest, so it's a lot eeasier for me. So yeah, I always love helping other people.
Yeah, it's like when you're a grandparent, I suppose, when they give you the child and you go, oh yeah, no, it's all right, the child, but I'll give it back. There you go. Yeah. All the pressure's off you, and you can go, right, well, I'm here to help. And again, doing that, obviously at the stage you're at as well, traveling around different camps, you get to actually learn a little bit more that you may not have known as well. Obviously you're in a great camp over in America, but training with Jimmy and Sam and the Australian crew gives you a bit more of a fresh home feel, and you teaching them new things and them teaching you new things is always a good sort of spiritual thing, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. I've trained at a lot of different gyms, and I've always appreciated learning from different gyms, and I might be a world champion now, but I'm happy for any advice I can get from coaches, and I just kind of want to keep improving myself. And if I can teach anything or show anyone anything, I'm happy to do that. Yeah,
I think that's one of probably the best advices, so to speak, for fighters and coaches. If they get to a stage, and you're obviously world champion, PFL world champion now, and if you got to a stage where you go, I'm done, I know everything now, I'm the world champ, then really your learning stops. Yeah. And I think with coaches, and I've been through that process, and I know a lot of great coaches in Australia and overseas, I always find the ones who are willing to learn, even though people look upon them as great coaches or great fighters, St. Pierre is one of them, he would travel anywhere and be coached under anyone. Yeah. The more you can open your mind to learn, and even if things don't work for you, just throw them aside and go, okay, that's not working for me. But the majority of the time you get that extra knowledge, which then you go, well, I'm keeping that because that's going to help me down the track. So open-mindedness is one of the best things.
Yeah, definitely. You got to keep growing. I write that down a little bit as well. Just always learn and grow. Like as we get older, we're not just, now we're an adult and now I'm a world champion. Doesn't mean I can't keep learning and growing things. And I definitely have lots of things I need to keep improving on to make sure I win it again this year.
100%. Let's go back. Born in Tassie.
Yeah.
As a youngster?
Actually, no, but
that's
what
where were you born at?
That's what I've told everyone.
Oh, right.
I'm a Tassie boy. I was born in Adelaide, but I was moved to Tassie when I was 3, so I don't remember Adelaide.
Yeah, Adelaide. Not many people like to remember Adelaide anyway. But
exactly. So I'm a Tassie boy.
Yeah, Tassie boy. And growing up in Tasmania, what was childhood like for Rob?
I think I had a pretty standard childhood. I just always loved playing sports and doing a bit of stuff outdoors. I was actually really into rock climbing for a long time. I'd like compete in like nationals for
Really?
like
Wow.
youth indoor rock, like sports climbing, and did a fair bit of outdoor rock climbing as well. It was weird. And then I qualified for the Australian youth team.
Yep.
To, compete in the worlds. And then I had a stress fracture in my leg at the time and had to have like 9 months off. And then I just never got back into it.
Never went back. So when you obviously that happened and you moved on, what sparked the interest, or how did you come across actual MMA?
I was always interested in fighting. I don't know why. I was always watching WWE, not that that's fighting, but always watching fake wrestling with my brother, always fighting and wrestling my brother, and watching like different shows on like martial arts and stuff like that. And then I always kind of wanted to do boxing. I had a boxing bag at home and I'd go, hit that. And then eventually I went into a PCYC gym and joined that for doing some boxing for like maybe 8-9 months. Had like 2 exhibition boxing fights just with someone from the gym, and I really enjoyed training. And then I was actually at a party, I think when I was probably 16, and some guy was talking about MMA and that he trained, and I think I had just started watching it on YouTube.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was like, you train? Like where can you do that? And then he said there was a gym in town, and next week I rocked up to that gym, and that was with Priscus Foganolo, my coach. And
yep.
Yeah, it started
off you went.
Yeah, off I went.
Off you went. So once you got into the training, you obviously enjoyed it and started to love it, and we become a personal trainer, or what did you do for work during that time of starting the MMA?
Yeah, so I was 17, so I was at school then, and then after I finished year 12, I just got a job delivering pizzas and training. I actually I worked for like a year delivering pizzas and saved up a bit of money. I went over to the States when I was 20 for like 6 months just to train. And
yeah, okay. Where'd you travel over there when you went there?
I was in Oregon at Team Quest.
Okay, yeah, cool.
And I had a fight out of there, just like pretty local fight, and that was my 3rd pro fight. I was just like straight away, I was like, this is what I want to do. This is I want to be.
So you really didn't have an amateur sort of
back, I think there wasn't really amateur fights when I started.
Like typical coaches back in the day, mate, you look very good. Yeah, how about we just chuck you in?
There was a whole lot of amateurs. There's obviously a lot more now, but I don't think any of our guys, when I was training back then, had an amateur fight. We all just jumped in and it was just pro straight away. But the amateurs these days are better than I was for sure back then as a pro. Yeah.
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of time gone into the levels of A, B, and C MMA, and I think there's a lot of promotions around that are doing the amateur series. I know Victoria, Mark Castanedi, and a few of the crew are doing like the Muay Thai, the MMA in the cage, but it's all amateur.
Yeah. So
it's like a breeding ground, so to speak. So that's interesting. That's interesting. So you made realistically like 2011-ish. You made your pro debut. Like official pro debut.
Yeah, my coach said once I turned 18, I could fight. I had a bit of an injury, and then ended up being 19. So and then so that was 11 years ago.
Kicked it off then.
Yeah.
And and obviously when you kicked off the MMA journey, you fought on pretty much the regional scenes in Australia, the AFC, I think it was, Brace, Hex.
Yeah.
So and then you sort of gathered a 11-0 record, so you weren't too bad at that, just jumping straight into it.
Yeah.
And then I think what was it, 9 out of the 11 were the first round stoppages. What were the main things that sort of put you at a different level, having so many stoppages in the first round?
When I was training, I was always like, what do I have to do to be better than the next guy?
Yeah.
And, when you first started training, people might just be kind of training, even back then, like a few times a week or, like every day, but not like twice a day. So I was like, I better train more than once a day. I was like training twice a day or whatever. It's like always got to try and do something more to be better than my opponent. But yeah, I don't know if it was just, I think I got a good like killer instinct and good at finishing the fights, as well as probably
you needed to.
Yeah, as well as probably not being the best at actually pacing myself and just going 100% straight out of the gate. And it was probably a good thing I finished my opponents, because I'd probably going to gas out pretty quick if I didn't finish them. Yeah. I remember actually sometimes thinking like, fuck, I'm getting tired. I better finish this.
You get into that zone. You're like, fuck, if I don't finish this, I'm gone. So I better turn all this around.
Yeah.
So once you've gone through the Hex, the Brace and so forth, you get the call up for the UFC. What was that? Because there's a lot of different, I suppose, expressions or feelings that fighters get.
Yeah.
When they go, mate, you're going to sign with the UFC, and it, not just because it's the UFC, but just the MMA platform that it goes to.
Yeah.
Where were you at that stage? Once you finished, you'd done the regional scenes, and then they wanted to sign you for the fights. What was that for you? Where were you? What were you thinking?
I was living in Sydney at the time. I had moved there. I actually fought once when I fought in Finland as my 11th fight, just before getting into the UFC on a new promotion over there. So I think that kind of helped me get in the UFC. But I was actually probably, like, looking back, it wasn't the best couple of years of my life. I was pretty doing some stupid shit, and kind of my mental health was going up and down a lot.
And when you say doing some stupid shit, what's stupid shit to Rob Wilkinson? Because everyone does stupid shit.
Stupid shit. Well, just like
alcohol, drugs,
a lot of weed. Yeah.
Yep.
Smoking a lot of weed.
Well, now look at that butt.
Yeah.
That's like, now they're going, mate, we're all legalising it because it's helping your health.
Oh yeah. I don't have a problem with it, but if you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
No, probably doing it to cope with what was going on in my life, having a pretty toxic relationship, having just been pretty unwell mentally, like on and off depression, and then kind of spiraling down, and then just kind of like smoking weed to deal with that sort of shit.
Yeah.
So not the best time frame to be a fighter.
No.
And like just not dealing with things, or maybe drinking to deal with some stuff. Not that I drank very much, but now and then just like let it out. But yeah, because at that time I had knee surgery probably 3 months before I got the phone call for the UFC, and back then I was my identity was fighting. So when I couldn't train and couldn't fight, that's kind of when I lost myself a little bit. So if I was injured or didn't have a fight coming up, that's kind of when I'd lose myself and get in these kind of negative spirals and smoke weed every day, and just I'd still be training and stuff, but just mentally not in a good space. So I had, my knee took a little longer than I thought to recover. It wasn't major, it was just my meniscus, but it took about 3 months for me to actually get back into training. Yeah. I turned up to training on that Monday, and then I think on Wednesday I got the phone call 2 days later.
Wow.
When I fight in the UFC in 4 weeks in Rotterdam.
Oh, no. Wow. Yeah, right.
And I was just like so excited, obviously, and I kind of used that to kind of ignore with other issues in my life, and it was just fucking like, yes.
Yep.
Hindsight, probably not the smartest thing to fight for.
Yeah, but you'd be amazed how many fighters have gone through similar stuff. Yeah. And when you say that's a big sort of subject that I always look at, being an old fella and being around a long time, is the identity of fighters. Like, as you say, your identity to you and probably others was you're a fighter, and that's it.
Yeah.
So when you haven't got fighting anymore, you go, fuck, what's my life? What's my purpose in this place?
Yeah.
But you see other fighters go, okay, my identity as a fighter, I'm going to use that platform and I'm going to go into business and do something or whatever it may be. So that's where they carry on, which helps their probably mental health in regards that occupies their mind. And then they obviously, when they're making money, they go, oh, now I'm still fighting, I'm still earning, but my businesses are still going along and whatever. But I sympathise with those fighters that do have that scenario in their life, because they go through that stage of going, I am fighting. Yeah. And then once it stops, you go, fuck, I am nothing. What's going on here? Yeah. And it's as you say, depression, just trying to go into that, fuck, who am I? Yeah. That will be hard.
Yeah, I often felt like that even after a fight. Like, I was winning all my fights, before I got to the UFC, and even after big wins and stuff like that, I'd kind of feel pretty depressed and like, what do I do now? I don't have a fight to focus on. And it was weird, like UFC was my goal since I started. So my goal,
I think it's every kid that's watched it for 30 years goes, fuck UFC, because it's their, as I was talking prior to the podcast, is they see UFC name and they think, fuck, I don't have to work ever again. I'm going to make millions. The next minute, driving around in a Mazda, poor old wheels aren't fucking pumped up. Yeah. I've seen it all when I was training at Albuquerque. But that's a hard stint.
Yeah, it is. And I remember I didn't even like training at that point. I was kind of training. It kind of felt like it was more of a job. Like I had to train, where normally I love training. I love training at the moment. I was training probably 3 times a day most of the time, maybe too much, and just like not being present at training. Like I've got to be there because I've got to be there, but not being present and enjoying that training. And I love watching fights. I remember for like, I can't remember how long, maybe a year or so, I just didn't watch any fights. I was just not interested in, like, it was just like consuming my life, and I didn't want to like add more by watching fights. I just wasn't watching anything. And yeah, anyway, I got the call up and I was obviously excited and took that fight. And, I don't think I wasn't necessarily ready, but things didn't go my
opportunities
way.
knock, you got to really take them either way, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
But I thought because it wasn't too much of a stint. How many fights in the actual UFC did you have? Two fights. One in, was it Nottingham?
In Rotterdam.
And then Izzy.
And then Izzy in Perth.
Perth it was. I didn't know if it was Melbourne or Perth. But from an outsider, because I didn't know you personally, I knew of you, obviously following you around and saying, this is – but I thought when you got to that stage, and now I look back and you tell me the story of your headspace and whether it was too soon or not.
Yeah.
And I thought, fucking UFC's just chucking him in against Izzy. They want to promote Izzy. They're just chucking him in there. And I kept on thinking, who's Rob Wilkinson? This is what probably everyone's starting to think. He just got busted up. And, and once that Izzy fight finished, it was sort of, to me personally, it was more like, then you were just a fucking memory. It was just like, where's Rob? He was a fighter. Izzy beat him, and then whatever. Yeah. And then you got released. When was it released? On 2018 or something?
Yeah. So
they released you?
Started 2018, and a couple months later they sent me the email saying that was it. So once you get to that stage in the email, and then you go, fuck, all my dreams was getting to the UFC. Now I'm not in the UFC. Where did that put you back into that mental, fuck, what am I doing? Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, it was weird. It was actually, I think I got the email just before, maybe when I was over in New Zealand. Eugene, Izzy's coach, had reached out, asked if I'd go train there for like as long as possible, like a month or so before Izzy was fighting, I think, Brad Tavares, because I wanted like a big wrestler to go help him over. So I took that opportunity, and then I think 100%. I found out I was out of the UFC, so it was kind of like pretty shitty, and I was training over there. And then I kind of just thought, it took me a while. I was just like, do I want to still commit myself? Like I was 25 at the time, maybe just turned 26, and I was like, do I still commit myself knowing that I'm not going to be making any money? I know how dangerous this sport is and how bad it is for your brain.
100%.
And do I still want to commit myself to doing this? And I kind of just took a step back from it all, and just like, not going to focus on fights, not going to focus on anything. Just like I was setting myself more of a goal of just trying to focus on like being happy again and like enjoying life, my mental health. And I didn't stop training because I love training, but I was only training once a day. Yeah. And that was probably the best thing for me. I started training once a day, and I was loving training. I was looking forward to it. I was training better and harder because it was just like one session. I was like, may as well train hard for this session.
100%. How many times does that happen? You get a fighter who's doing 2-3 sessions a day. Yeah. The next minute they go, fuck, I only just changed it back to one session, and I felt alive, because you're not going through the grind, I suppose. Yeah. But did training over with Izzy and Eugene, because obviously they've got a great camp and I see Eugene, I've known Eugene for a lot of years, but his IQ of the fight game, he seems to be a very good coach along with his other coaches. Yeah, very very smart in coaching. Did that give you a bit of a fire and motivation?
I think even just the camp is awesome, and training with them, and just like in my fight, I know I didn't look great in the second round, but I'm not sure. I probably won the first round, and then training with Izzy, I knew what kind of level I was at. Like I'm not. I know he beat me and he's a very good fighter, but like I'm there. Like I was training with him and having good rounds with him, and I know I'm at that level, and then he's going on pretty quickly to win the world title, and I've been released from the UFC, but I know I'm at that level. Yeah.
Did in camp you're like, fuck, I'm getting this one back at you?
I think I tapped him when we were doing some jits with a head arm, and I was like, that's what I was going to get you. That was what I was working for the fight. Like, he's a good dude. We're joking around.
He seems like a really good dude. I've sort of run into him a couple of times. Obviously, he's been with Frankie and a few of the other coaches, but he seems like a real stand-up real honest
everyone
guy.
down there, I really like City Kickboxing, and they're all good dudes.
They seem like a great bunch of dudes.
Yeah. But yeah, so, I knew I was there, and then I was like, fuck, I'm not going to just lose a couple fights and then
Give
quit
up.
kind of thing. And that, like, I couldn't live with that.
Yep.
And I was loving it again, which was the most important thing. Like, I was enjoying doing it. And I knew what I had to improve on. I knew I had to improve on my striking.
Yep.
So I started taking a few kickboxing fights and just kind of working on that. And then I was like, all right, get back to MMA after, I think, 3 kickboxing fights. And then it was hard. I had one against Dylan Andrews, and then COVID happened. So it took like a year for me to even get that first fight. So it was frustrating because I thought, being in the UFC, lost my last 2 fights, people would want to fight me. Because that was the problem before I got to the UFC. Like, I couldn't get fights.
Yeah, true. Well, with the record, obviously.
And then I thought, now I've lost, being in the UFC, people want to fight me, but still couldn't get fights. So it's kind of frustrating. It's frustrating when you're trying to do what you love and trying to prove that you deserve to be back in a big promotion, but you can't get the fights.
Yeah.
And then obviously COVID happened for everyone, and that kind of shut a lot down. And
well, what was your COVID picture like? Everyone was either on the beers, wine, or smoking weed. Who knows when they're confined in the house? But did you have the opportunity to still get out and about and still do any training anywhere, or just? I
mean, Tassie wasn't too bad. We had the 6-week lockdown. When
6 weeks, that would have been hard, mate.
Yeah.
What Melbourne have? 2 years.
Exactly.
Oh man, I was lucky as well. I had Newcastle with Mark Hunt and Tai Tuivasa, so we didn't really have lockdown up there. So we just trained at the beaches each morning. But the Melbourneites, when I moved down to Melbourne, they done a full year. Even that's before I got in, and then we done an extra year. I was like, fuck, no wonder people's mental health is all fucked up.
It was crazy what Melbourne and Sydney had to go through. But yeah, we were lucky in Tassie. We had that 6 weeks, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, really.
We had like a snap 2 or 3 day lockdown at one point, and that was,
You just cut everyone off from travelling from the Australian mainland.
Everyone else fuck off.
Fuck off. We're at Tassie. That's probably the only time that all of Australia wanted to be Tasmanians.
Well, man, property was going through the roof. The prices of houses started going up. Everyone started buying houses and property down here,
Wow.
It kind of just settled down now, but lots of people were moving down or buying property down in Tassie after that.
Wow, that's crazy, isn't it? Shit. That's where you should have, if you had won the million before that, you would have bought property boom, there you go.
Now it's expensive.
Now the million won't go too far, but so then you're getting a bit of motivation. What was the process in getting into the PFL? Because all of a sudden, people like myself, people outside, all of a sudden seeing you in the UFC promotions, and next minute, boom, PFL.
Yeah.
And here he is. He's popped up. He's fighting there. Obviously, you've gone to Mark and the crew over in the gym over in the US.
Yeah.
And what was the process? How did that all come about? One, trainer with Mark, who's one of the great coaches at the moment with MMA, but signing with the PFL.
Our gym actually shut down because it was moving, so we didn't have a gym for maybe 6 to 9 months. I can't remember exactly how long. So I was doing like training in the park, and
we've all been there too, done
bunch of weight. So it was like, I know we went in lockdown, so it wasn't that like
bad,
nowhere near as bad obviously as Melbourne and stuff. But definitely I trained like for different reasons, gym and like trying to set that up wasn't going. But then once it was all backing up, I had one more fight for the Hex title, light heavyweight title.
That's right, yeah.
And then I ended up having a pro boxing fight as well.
That's right. Hey, not many people say, "Oh, mate, I'm boxing. I'm 1-1." Yeah, especially when they're going from MMA
as well.
Yeah, that was what was it? A interim? No, it wasn't an interim title. It was for the Tasmanian Australian title.
Yeah, vacant.
Tasmanian Australian title.
Vacant Tassie heavyweight title, yeah.
That's right, yeah. So you stepped in.
Yeah, against Plugger, who's a Tassie boy, but he's former cruiserweight Australian title holder, and he's a good boxer.
So one fight, boom, I'm the Tassie champ. Let's move on now to the next one.
Yeah, and then my manager, Reese, he said earlier in the year that he'd been talking to the PFL and they were interested. So I got super excited, and then nothing happened for like months and months and months. I had that boxing fight. I was like, fuck, it's not going to happen. And then shortly after the boxing fight, he's like, yeah, you're in. We've got your contract. Like,
wow.
And I was just, he says, the phone call, I just heard a lot of fuck yeahs of me just fuck yeah.
Well, yeah, when you've done the journey that you have, and PFL's another, obviously, the UFC is the promotion that's that's got every bit of coin to do the promotions. But then you got the Bellators, you got the PFLs, which the PFLs, and you look at the quality. Have you found PFL quality of fighting just the same as UFC?
Of course. Like
100%.
you see that. You see UFC fighters coming out of PFL and losing to guys that no one knows. And I mean, at the high level, fighting's fighting, and everyone's, it doesn't matter what promotion, everyone's good. There might not be like UFC might have a better roster like of fighters, more fighters that are good, but PFL still their top, top 5 of each division are all good.
Yeah, you see some of the, I think some of those fighters that you see, and I always say like UFC, yes, it's a world-class level, but now like you got the Bellators, you got the PFLs, these are still world-class. You're fighting different people from all over the world. It's not like you're just going, oh, I'm fighting in America, but they're all bums. Because as I said prior to our session here, is camps that are done in the US, boxing or MMA, is just a little bit different because the population is bigger, and then you've got everyone wanting to make it to the top. So you've got the best of the best crops, probably a little bit more than Australia. So that's probably a bonus when you sign for PFL. Next minute you're in there training with some of the best.
Well, it's so good because for me, like that's what started 2022. I'm going to be fighting for PFL. Got released from UFC at the start of 2018, so 4 years later, and I'd been, I felt like I'd improved heaps and been working like, I know, as you said, like what happened to Rob Wilkinson, no one.
100%, and I'm not saying that disrespectfully, that's the fight game that everyone goes, oh, he got beat, he got released, and being that part of, that's the top platform, once they go from that, you never see him again.
Yeah, and I knew that was the case, and this whole time I'd just been watching Izzy just dominate, and I'm just there doing, fighting locally, fighting on small Tassie shows, or
and just thinking,
doing whatever I can to try and get back and keep improving. And that's what I kind of set myself goals and wrote down that like when I get an opportunity, because I knew if I keep doing what I'm doing, I will get another opportunity. And when I get an opportunity, I'm going to be ready. And that's actually a huge thing I learned from Izzy and his camp, because when I got to the UFC, I didn't think I was ready to be fighting the top 10 guys or be the best in the world, but I thought I was ready for the UFC. But Izzy had said no to the UFC for a few years, and when they took it, they were ready to go straight to the top.
That's right. I think Eugene had, from what I, obviously for a lot of years, and Eugene, someone was sort of mentioning that Eugene sent Izzy over to China, I think for like 3 years or something, to fight each week or fight regularly,
kickboxing fights
to get that striking regularly. So when I seen Izzy enter the UFC, and I think Mark Hunt was even telling the UFC guys, this is the guy you need in here at that stage. And once Izzy appeared, as usual, everyone was like, fuck, who's this dude? Where's he been?
Yeah.
And then, but the traditional fight people who have been in the game for a long time go, fuck, this should be good, because this dude's been fighting weekly overseas in China, away from all the lights and the glitz and glamour. And that's what I think's smart with Eugene and his IQ with the fighting. He's been around the top guys under Lolo. Back in the day, Lolo was Mark Hunt's main man to start with, and I think Eugene was a part of their camp for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And then he went out on his own with City Kickboxing. I think he's one of the smartest coaches that I see, especially in the western part here. I've got a lot of respect for Eugene. He's very clued up man.
Yeah, very smart.
Yeah. But once you got into the PFL, and then obviously what you're dealing with the depression and just having that focus, fuck, what am I here for? What am I doing? That would have all changed, obviously.
Yeah.
Once you got the motivation, you go, fuck, now I'm signed for PFL. Now, did you think, now I'm ready?
Definitely, I felt ready, and it was a few years before, last year, like the last couple of years, I felt a lot better with my mental health and depression, and talked to a psychologist and just making sure.
So you went and found help as well. So 100%. That's probably the number one that a lot of fighters, come males in particular, don't do.
Yeah.
We've all been through it, but if you can go to a psychologist and go, fuck, I need some help.
Yeah.
These guys deal with it day in, day out.
Yeah.
So you went there.
Yeah, I was doing that, especially when after I got released from UFC, I moved back to Tassie because I was living in Sydney. I didn't really like Sydney that much. I was too busy for a little Tassie boy.
Yeah, mate. Sydney's bad. Nah.
But yeah, I started seeing a psychologist and just getting on top of what was going on, and making sure I was dealing with strategies better than how I was dealing with it. And I felt like my mental health the last few years have been way better. Like, good. Obviously, you still have times you feel shitty, but 100%. I don't let them kind of spiral down into like a really negative kind of mindset.
And when you know how to maintain it, and sort of deal with it, that's I think, and psychologist, or that's a big thing. I agree with that. Yeah. It's if you know when it's coming on, or the feeling, if you know triggers how to maintain it, then you're on the right track.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much I was like, once it's fine to obviously feel shitty, but I kind of keep those feelings and make them do more things to kind of spiral down, like kind of that way. So, but yeah, got the PFL contract, and it was just when Australian borders had kind of opened up, and I was still nervous. Like, I didn't want anything to happen. Like, I didn't want to not be able to fly over there because of COVID or anything like that. So, I actually, Richie Walsh, who I trained with in Sydney, hadn't talked to him for ages. He just randomly had messaged me like, "What's going on?" And I told him, PFL, blah, blah, blah. And he said, like, "Are you going to go and train?" Like, he said, maybe go train in the States. And I said, I was thinking about that, but I don't know what gym. And he's like, he knows heaps of people, made some calls for me, got back to me and said, "I think Mark's going to be a good Mark at Factory X in Denver is going to be a good fit for you," because he knows me. And he had a chat with Mark, and then he's like, "Yeah, I think it worked. Like, you should call him up, have a chat with him." I called Mark, and he seemed like a good dude. And obviously, you don't know until you're there, but
100%,
and then I had to get my visa and stuff, so I couldn't go over there for the first fight. But I just trained at a HGC in Hobart for my first fight, which I was happy about anyway. And I just went over with pretty much two of my best friends, Khan and Chris, who are like part owners in the gym, and help me, training partners, and coach me. And they're like a year younger than me, and just three Tassie boys going over
on the big trip of a lifetime.
And then got that first win, and that was probably the most excited. That was probably my most nerve-wracking fight out of the whole season, because like
big expectations.
Back on the big stage again, and got that first win, and then I stayed over in Denver, so I didn't have to. One, like PFL, you're fighting 7-8 weeks apart, so
that's right.
One, flying back and forth is a lot.
Sometimes it's too much, isn't it?
And then two, just training at a new gym was good for me. And Mark's a great
coach. I said to you earlier on, I said, Mark from the Factory X here, he just seems like, and I've observed and I've been around a lot of MMA coaches in my time overseas in Australia. Mark seems, and I've never met him personally, but he just seems like a dude who's, one, passionate about the fight game, and two, passionate about his fighters, like the actual well-being of his fighters. I see that every time I see him on the TV or in promotions. I go, that dude, he's just passionate and loves his fighters.
Yeah, he is very passionate. He's a good mix, I think, of being like, hard ass, like making you work, but like
the dad figure, and then
but
the
also
friend
like like doesn't care like if you're having fun and stuff, as long as you're doing the work. Not like too crazy, which I think is a good mix.
Definitely. And then you go, so you're sort of embedded in there, training with Mark and the crew at Factory X, and you've had the first fight, but you trained out of Tassie for it.
Yep.
Now you're in there. You've had PFL fights. You've had three? Four. Okay, so in the last fight, and to be honest, and I obviously like talking the truth, when I seen who you're fighting, and I'm sure I remember him fighting Kyle Noak in Melbourne. Yeah. When Kyle basically give it up.
Yeah.
And he was training with Kyle over at Jackson's, I think, at some stages, and I thought to myself, Rob's got a great chance, because I've seen this dude fight, I've seen him train, and Kyle should have beat him if it's the same dude in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And I thought, Rob has got an absolute 80%, 90% of beating this dude.
Yeah. And
that's when I seen the lineup, and I'm like, damn, he might have $1 million here. He might be world champion. And fuck, that's how it went.
Yeah.
How was, obviously you got the great team behind you, but knowing that you're leading in all the fucking hard work, all the down days, all the up days, and you're leading into this fight now, and you've got $1 million on the line, and MMA fighters to fucking pick up $1 million check.
Yeah.
Still, you go, fuck, that'd be my dream.
Yeah.
Plus the PFL World Champion belt, which, is a good deal over at PFL, and Race FO and all the crew over there are just great people.
Yeah.
What's that leading up to that fight? That's the life-changing fight for some people.
Yeah. You're getting me goosebumps as you're talking about it.
That's what I'll tell. That's what
it's funny. I did a lot of like media for that fight, obviously, like more than I've ever done before. And so many people are like, oh, did you expect to be here? I'm like, of course I expected to be here. I wouldn't be here if I didn't expect to. Like everyone's like, first season, you're doing well. Did you expect to get to the final? I'm like, yeah, I expect to win the whole thing. That's what I set myself out to. That's what I've been training towards for, 10 years. So it felt good, but I've never fought so many times. Like so regularly.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to be fighting, like be active and be fighting regularly. And every fight I just kept building more confidence. I felt more like calm and composed in the cage. And I felt like I could like show a little bit more of my skills and not be like, if you haven't fought for over a year, sometimes it's, a bit more nerve-wracking and you're kind of a bit more rushed.
Yeah.
Like the first fight I felt very rushed.
Yeah. Okay.
And then second fight I felt way more relaxed calm, and so on. So yeah, it felt really good, and I was very confident. Like I knew the whole time I'm walking.
It must be hard to think, fuck, I'm that confident winning this fight, but I can't let the fucking $1 million in the world championship belt just cloud my motivation and enthusiasm.
Yeah,
that's always a good mindset thing for the young ones coming through the ranks to go, because they've got fucking belt, they're telling this is probably their generation, these telling all my friends, mate, I'm fucking going to win this $1 million, I'm winning the belt, go in there and that's all they'll focus on and forgot to fucking fight the fight.
Yeah, everyone kept talking like $1 million, you got the belt, $1 million, you got the belt, and I was like, at the end of the day, it's a fight. And that is, something that's the outcome of the fight at the end, but that's, I got to focus on the fight, because that's nothing, like without winning the fight, $1 million, the belt, that's not there. So, I was trying to make sure I just focused on, it's just another fight. It's just another fight, obviously a big fight, but I fought title fights before, and just focusing on that fight. And I wasn't sure on the day if, that moment was going to get to me or not, but I felt just as calm and ready as ever. Once I started warming up, I felt really fast, strong, and I was like,
and it helps to have a coach, as you say, like with Mark in there, who's fucking got the knowledge, but he's passionate to make sure he sees you succeed.
He's awesome having in the corner, and obviously it was really nice the first fight, as I said, having Chris and Khan in my corner and just like my two best mates.
That was a bit of a friends thing.
Yeah, but like for a world title, like you want to like Chris was with me for every fight. He flew over for every fight, and Chris and Khan were both there for the final fight as well. Like they're really good coaches, but like having someone with. Mark said he's cornered his first UFC fight like 21 years ago. Like he's been around.
Right, that's 100%. You can tell that too.
Yeah, having that experience and that confidence backstage with you, like it's really nice going out into
just knowing when to warm you up, make you sweat, when to tape you down, what things to tell you, what time. It is a very special coach with a lot of experience and a lot of passion that can do the right job with that.
Yeah,
and so then you go into that fight and perform.
Yeah,
man, what a feeling after that. Well, once you obviously the fight finished, then what was the emotions you feel? Obviously, Mark would have been fucking super stoked, but you would have been super stoked for not just probably you knowing you, probably for the whole camp and for everyone who's helped you along the journey.
Yeah, it's been some of the best. I guess moments for me is like hearing how other people, especially heaps of people back home in Tassie, reacted, and so many people, and I've seen footage and stuff, people crying and like just so happy for me, and it's just like knowing how happy other people are for my success, especially back home, is like really like
that's like look at the goosebumps now. That's fucking happening to me. Yeah. There's nothing better that I don't feel, especially everyone who's been through that ride, and in this sport, as you would know, you always get the fucking hanger-oners.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, he's the champ. I want to do something with him, and I want a photo with him. He's the man. And then they fall off. Obviously, once you've got nothing for them, they fall off. But to have that feeling when you've won that fight, you've gone through the ups and downs, and you're representing your family and the gym.
Yeah,
it must be a buzz. Yeah. Standing mid cage.
It took a while to sink in, and then I think some of the messages just saying like people saying no one deserves it more than you kind of thing. Like that was like everyone Like
Yep.
so many people said that to me. It was just
Yep.
like, it's nice to like have all that support, especially from back home and just everyone, like everyone I know kind of sending me in love and support. But yeah, it takes a while. I think it was not even the next day, the day after, I just woke up in the hotel room and just like the belt was just on a chair next to me. And I was just like, I'm the champ.
I'm the champ. 100%.
Yeah.
Fuck. That, yeah. You see all that when fighters win the belts, they have photos laying in bed with it, sleeping with it, and they're not fucking.
I didn't sleep with I slept with my girlfriend instead of the belt, but he was looking at us.
Yeah, I was going to say, you should have had it in between.
Yeah.
Now, just tonight, this lays here.
She sleeps on the floor tonight.
Oh, man. But yeah, obviously, that would have been great for the whole trip over there and all the way back. So, obviously, you're the champ now. You've get to that point. Now the hardest bit starts.
Yeah.
Everyone fucking comes for you because you've got the belt. Everyone wants to fight you for the $1 million next time, if there's next time, whatever.
Yeah.
How's that sort of now mentally have you, okay, now I'm the target?
This season's going to be harder than last season, and I believe that. Their PFL have signed some big names like Santos is coming over, and as you said, like now I'm not the underdog. I'm not the guy that no one knows. I'm the guy. I'm the champ. I'm the guy with the 100%. Target on my back that everyone wants to.
Must be a bit of a buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, fuck, everyone wants me.
Yeah.
Then thinking, fuck, now I've got to fight some big fights.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. That's what I want. Like, it's awesome. I'm excited to fight Santos because he left the UFC as like number 8 or something in the world. So beating him does heaps for me.
Oh, 100%.
And that's what I'm at now. Like my goal I had set myself out was to be a world champion, and now I've sat down and wrote some bigger goals out, and I'm looking forward to like, all right, that's, you're always going to write goals that are meant to scare you, and bigger than you ever think. And now I'm excited to keep pushing those boundaries of those goals and see how far I can take this. Yeah.
And the MMA life, put it aside, you've reached that goal now. You've got another tremendous year coming up to defend all those titles and fight some massive titles. Outside, like, have you thought about what's after MMA? Is there like, you're writing all the goals for world champion? Has there been that, okay, I'm writing this? Is there business? Is there, what's Rob's view, like, for business wise, so to speak, so you're not going into that, I'm world champion and now I'm nothing.
Yeah.
What's in line in your mind for that?
No, definitely. I've thought about that a lot, especially because, as we're kind of talking about, when your life is fighting, then after fighting, what will I do? So I've thought about, different things I would want to do, and I actually wouldn't mind doing a trade. I wouldn't mind doing like becoming a builder.
Yeah, really?
Mainly just because I'd be doing something with your hands. Mainly just, I'm not very handy, but I'd like to learn how to.
Yeah, well, you've got to learn those type of things too. So.
Yeah, and I kind of envision myself buying some land and be able to build my own like shack or something like that, which would be cool. But I never was that interested in coaching, but now I think I'm at a stage where I feel like I think because before I was like, I always want to learn, and
that's right.
I don't think I should be coaching. I want to be learning.
Yep.
But now I'm getting to a stage where like I've been coaching a little bit, especially the younger guys coming up, and I could see myself, in a coaching role, and especially for fighters. Like I don't think I just coach the general public, but in Tassie we've got a really good crew, and lots of guys are really inspired to see how far they can take it.
Yep.
And like giving back and helping them out as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, with the money I've got, trying to just invest in some property, and kind of I want to set myself up with a bit of property that I don't have to stress about, like a job that I have to do for money. I want to be able to do it because I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be stuck doing something because...
Is that in Tassie, or are you thinking of elsewhere? Or?
Yeah, probably Tassie.
Tassie,
yeah.
So in the end of the day, we'll see Rob just wander into the Tassie hills and on the smoke his weed on the hill and just
disappear.
Disappear again. That's. And business wise, as in property and business, like starting a gym or being a part of a gym.
Wouldn't mind buying into, so the gym I train at is the gym I started at when I was 17.
Okay.
It's changed hands a little bit, and at the moment, two of my, like Chris and Khan, those guys, some of the part owners.
Yep.
So I would like to, buy into that at some point, just because it's been my gym since, I started
day one,
and like my two best friends are,
100%,
running it and owning it. So, at some point I'd like to kind of buy into that, but yeah, no rush. Like obviously for me, fighting's still my focus.
Main focus,
as we said, there's a big target on my back at the moment, and I don't want to start branching out, doing all this other stuff, and forget about what got me here, which is just I've always dedicated myself to fighting and try to have as little distractions as possible, and just focus on that fighting.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, you've gone through your journey, and as I say, I admire your journey, and it's if there is one person who I've paid attention to along the way, and that's why I wanted this to sit down and have a chat to you, more deserving to obviously pop up with the journey you've had and fucking show the world, hey, I'm the world champ, I'm a $1 million. What is, at this stage in your life now, what is Rob's rich life look like?
Like day to day, or?
Mate, what makes you happy? What is your rich life? If someone said, what is your happiness today?
Honestly, it's just enjoying the grind and the hard work. Like I've taught myself to love working hard and seeing that kind of pay off, and trying to show and teach others that. And it kind of still feels weird for me to say, but like it's weird how many people saying like I've inspired them, and like for people to be like, keen to kind of keep doing their whatever it is. It doesn't have to be fighting.
No.
I've had a lot of people like tell me that I've like been a big inspiration to them and stuff like that. And it's a very new and weird thing for me, but it's very nice feeling at the same time. And I just kind of want to keep trying to be that inspiration, especially to like the younger generation in Tassie, showing that, where lots of people in Tassie think we can't do things because we're just a small island, and we don't have the resources to become a world champion or whatever it is.
Definitely.
So to show that we can do anything, especially out of Tassie, that's like one of my biggest goals at the moment.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. I just want to thank you for your time. It's the journey that I didn't know much about, but seeing you obviously do your fights and come along some of the journey, it really is inspiring. I think the young fighters coming through, who are going through those mental struggles, who are going through physical struggles and identity struggles, I think hopefully this will help them in your story. And thank you for your time, champion.
No worries,
mate, it's been an honour.
It's been good.